Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
Hey everyone, and welcome to all spiritual and enlightenment seekers throughout the world to another episode of the Your Spiritual Shift podcast with me, Carl Gruber, and your co-host, Jennifer Matthews. This is the show where America and Australia connect with the world and beyond to all the universe, as we seek the knowledge and wisdom that will help each of us ascend to our higher realm of spiritual and enlightenment understanding. Now, we do this through bringing some absolute phenomenal master teachers and ascended masters through their human channels, plus authors, teachers, starseeds, and light workers here on Earth to help us all awaken to the world's new reality of light, love, and truth. Now, before we meet our guests, please take a moment to click that subscribe button below to help this show keep going. Now, here's my co-host, Jennifer Matthews.
Thanks for that, Carl. Now, our featured guest today is Sananda Kryst. Now, Sananda is a galactic ambassador to the Pleiadians, an ambassador to Telos, and a Galactic Nations communication bridge. She is here to assist heart-centered women and men to move into their reality of oneness, to move you into alignment with your higher self-expression and soul's mission. Now, she'll gracefully move you beyond duality through activations, downloads, timeline adjustments, and whatever else your higher self requests. Now, as an ascended master, her multidimensional field works beyond 0 point, embracing crystalline energies, working with your highest expression of being to clear, heal, and bring you back into unity. Her work is profound and progressive, and Sananda is a multidimensional channel healer, awakening and activation facilitator, shaman, Karuna Reiki master, energy surgeon, codex transmuter or transmitter, Stargate, and so much more. Hey, Sananda, thank you so much for joining Carl and I today in the podcast.
Oh, and thank you, Jennifer and Carl, for inviting me.
Excellent. Now, for some of our listeners that are watching or listening to the podcast, you will notice that Sananda will actually speak light language throughout this podcast episode, as the Pleiadians are channeling through her. So now, Sananda, let's get started. You had a long human career as a flight attendant, but this actually all shifted when you were called to Egypt in 2017 to participate in the particle convergence to help along the great shift in humanity that's now occurring. Who was it that called you to this, and what is this great shift in humanity that you're talking about?
You could say, as we benevolently, we just kind of fall into things, or things are placed in our path. I was actually injured as a flight attendant, and I was able to have some time off to work on myself, and that happened January of 2017. And then was my friend who invited me to Egypt, or she knew about this Egypt trip, and all I knew is I had to be there. At the time, I was like the deer in the headlights. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I mean, I knew I had some abilities. They were there since childhood. And I just, I was excited when I was accepted to go, and I had the blessing of my doctor, which is always a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should go. Okay. And then I actually ended up going back in December of that year to close the portal. So what we did is, in August, we opened up the portal and we now closed it. So this great shift has been going on for a long time. It actually started 2008. And 2009, there were some big, very transformative years. They're telling me 2009 to 12, with another great awakening in 2012. Another big shift happened then once again in 2017. 2019, and that the big along with 2019 awakening, there was also a big shift occurring with the twin flames, and coming into play, opening us up to that whole new scenario that is unfolding beautifully. And once again, in 2022, another big shift of awakening taking place. So it's about regaining our sovereignty and our freedom, and remembering who we are. This is currently the Council of Nine who is stepping in and saying hello. They want you to know that you are very much supported, not only in the physical realms, but the etheric realms. Oh, that we're very closely with the archangels and ascended masters. As many of you already are ascended masters. You had to be a seventh dimensional being or higher to actually even come to Earth to be a part of this, if you want to call it the Great Awakening. However many lifetimes we've been here and through the reincarnation cycle, you had to be already an evolved being, if one could say that. So even though this might be the first time on Earth, because I've met a few people that this is their first lifetime here, and they may not seem like they're awake here or they're trying to remember, they are already ascended beings who are in beautiful bodies of light.
So does that mean that I've heard that we all volunteered, from a different dimension to come and live this existence on Earth? Does that mean we're all starseeds?
I would say 98% of us are all starseeds. There's a few individuals there's no label for them. But they are just here existing amongst us that are not star seeds. So this is this part I was mentioning earlier, where I can't speak human anymore, because there's some energy coming through for the audience. The beautiful, the galactics and divine create this beautiful space to reach many people at one time with downloads and information. They want you to know that you are more than one, for lack of a better word, being. You are many things, like like myself, I am Pleiadian, I am Siren, I am Lyran, I'm Atlantean, and the list goes on. So we are more, because we are also doing these lives simultaneously in other dimensions. And some of you may already have what is happening now is what we call like a bleed through to those lives. And this may happen a lot in dream time, where you will get glimpses of yourself in these realities, and they may even be other earthly realities. And what it is all coming together. You're all coming together. Yourself is coming together as one.
So when you went to Egypt, is that where you actually maybe for the first time connected to the Pleiadians, or was that something that you said you had some childhood abilities too?
Actually, it was interesting. I first found out I was Pleiadian in 2018, actually afterwards, because when I went to Egypt, I remember talking to one of the group members and stuff, and I looked to her and I said, I think I'm a starseed. And she goes, really? Yeah, you are. I was clueless. But as time came along, I just started blowing open. I was put on the fast track. There are many of us here that have been what we call fast track. So things are happening to us very quickly than the norm. And there's nothing wrong. It's just that's the journey we've chosen to take, and to be here and to be in certain places at certain times, to come back to help others along the path. But it wasn't until 2018, and I was being mentored, and she's like, well, you're a Pleiadian ambassador. And I'm like, what? So I learned a lot of enlightenment. I was clueless, but I did learn, I think even a year after that, a lot of the memories or feelings started coming back. I was actually abducted as a child from the years 4 to a couple of years ago by the Greys. I went through abduction, and the Pleiadians then would come and take, after I would be abducted, the Pleiadians would come and try to work on me as to reduce the trauma, one could say. And I remember the very first time it happened, when the Greys took me up on the ship, being 4 years old, and this Grey coming and getting on top of me, and he just put his head to my head and was erasing all my memories of, or my trying to take all my abilities away. And of course, in the big picture, I actually signed up for all this. So as part of the journey, which is a kind of a pill to swallow, because it was ended up being for me a very traumatic childhood, because I was so confused, because technically some of my gifts were still there and I didn't know how to deal and handle them. But it was actually at the same time a blessing, because if I think I would have blown open at that young of an age without any support and tutelage along the way, I think I would have gone crazy. I hate to say gone crazy. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago they came back down and they took me, and I knew what was happening. And I remember being up on the ship, and I actually, interestingly enough, remember seeing a U.S. military general there, and I was talking to him, and I said to him, I remember looking through this window, because they were doing experiments or lab work, if you want to say, and I just was telling him that this has to stop, that this can't transpire anymore, and that my agreement, whatever I agreed to in this lifetime, is now done. We're done. I'm ending our contract, or whatever, a contract or agreement, and we're done. And since then, they have not taken me, to my knowledge.
Excellent.
To my knowledge, but they have visited me once or twice, and because I see the lights, outside the window. But I'm not scared. I'm not worried. I know enough to say, I stand in my own sovereign power, and there's nothing they can do to me that will hurt me.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what an experience.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Greys are not necessarily a friendly race to humans, right?
Correct. And I will give a caveat to all the races, and you've probably heard of the Dracos or the Draconians, the Reptilians, the Greys. Even within all those beautiful races, there are benevolent beings, because I've worked in mission work where I've actually helped some Draconians and some Greys escape, one could say, and come and take them and bring them on a Pleiadian ship. And so they're not all bad. And just like the Greys are also Pleiadian, there's a sector of Greys that are also Pleiadians. So there's more to the picture, and you have to really open your mind. I mean, we're remembering so little as to what's going on. And I had a blessing last night. Isis came to me. I've been working a lot with Isis lately, and she came to me and she goes, and this has happened more than once, where it's time to remember. And she just opened up with me, and all these flashbacks and memories of Egypt and galactic life, and just started streaming through. They were so fast, it's like I couldn't even see them all. And and I'm like, okay,
bring it on.
Bring it on.
So you said about 98% of us are star seeds. If somebody was wanting to figure out what star they came from, what planet they came from, how would they go about doing that? Because I actually had my Akashic records read, and was told that I was actually part Mintakan and part Arcturian at that time. But if somebody's curious about where they originated from, how would they go about doing something like that?
Oh, and by the way, you're also part Syrian. Your Syrian aspect is coming through.
Nice.
So, and see, and that's what I tell people. I ask people, please don't get hung up on where are you from, because you are more than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do know, the star of origin. Sometimes that just takes it. You can connect. Set an intention of meditation and ask to be connected with your star family, star of origin. And if you're not in a place where you're receiving either through the third eye or visually or feeling or sensing, you're still waking up, they will get it to you. It may show up. All of a sudden you'll be looking at a billboard and there's a big lion on there. Well, that is Syrian or Lyran. Because the tigers have a lot to do with Sirius. And for some reason, I don't know why they're showing me this. I'm seeing a fry pan. So if somebody's out there cooking while they're listening to this, they're supposed to pay attention, or whatever's going on.
Don't burn the house on fire.
But the messages will get to you. Just like you can go for a walk, and of course I'm very intuitive. I know where the I call them the hot spots in the earth are. I can just walk along and know where to go. And the angels, your angels and your guides, constantly leaving feathers.
Feathers absolutely. Yeah. I'm constantly seeing feathers and angel numbers and all sorts of things floating around, butterflies, and I know my angels are with me at those times.
Yeah, and absolutely, we all have an angel aspect to ourselves, and probably more than one. Seraphim, archangel, oraphim, cherub, we're all that. So yeah, absolutely.
Talking about all those origins here, the whole time I thought my family was from Slovenia. What do I know? So I have no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Carl, because right now your Arcturian aspect is coming through, and that's one thing is if you're feeling drawn to a certain star family at that time, it's because that aspect is making itself known, and there's something that they're wanting to communicate with you, and it's good to go and either research them or read a book about them or whatever you're drawn to, because that's what is coming in for you to work with at that time.
Yeah, what she did say to me when I got mine done was that I was like a traveler or something. I used to travel between the different planets because, of course, Mintaka, being the water planets, kind of disappeared and didn't exist anymore. So then, of course, I went to another planet. So it was quite interesting to, and of course, then I got on and started researching the different star seeds, which is a good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are many of us that have been on planets that were destroyed or became uninhabited and had to move. And it's interesting, those galactic traumas will also come through in this human lifetime too, to be cleared, which is going on right now. It is the great clearing. The great healing, and it is through the healing of ourselves is where the ascension comes from, and the ascension of Earth. I mean, Mother Earth can take care of herself. She's already doing it, and I love the groups that do support her and take care, look after her. But people are always saying, what is my soul purpose? The number one thing that we are here to do is to heal ourselves and to ascend. And in doing so, we raise our vibration. And I'm sure one of your wonderful guests have talked about that, have mentioned that.
I just have to mention I'm sorry, Jen, because I have a Power of 8 healing group online, and healing is so much of a desired thing, and I have so many people that come to these healing sessions. I've just realized the entire world, the entire humanity needs healing.
Yeah, in some way or another. I think I think whether we're talking about physical healing, there's so much emotional healing and trauma that has to be healed in today's day and age, especially with everything that we've been going through. And this is why my podcast, Superconscious Success, and also Your Spiritual Shift and the other stuff we're putting out there is all about helping people to get to that ascension, that place of ascension. Absolutely. Because, you know, that healing is so important to be able to, because I know that even with past lives, and like you said, those planets that were destroyed and the trauma that comes from it, we've got generational trauma that we're having to heal as well. So Absolutely. it's important that at these times we tap into our spiritual realm and allow them to help us to move through those times.
Absolutely. I mean, they tell me constantly, I work very closely with right now the Ascended Masters, the couple in particular, and the Archangels, and they're always saying, we don't ask for enough help.
No.
Ask for more, ask for more. And this includes desires as well. They're not wanting me to forget about wanting, you know, your desires and bringing them to the forefront, along to bring in that peace and joy that we are looking for in our life. I do want to mention, because just being in my field, I obviously am working on you both. It's just what happens. And Carl, I pulled a rod out of your lower back, and and Jennifer, there's something going on. It's like I haven't pinpointed it down yet, but it's being worked on.
Okay, great.
And it's nothing bad. And none of it's bad. None of it's bad. It's just what I do to clear the field. And,
okay.
Thank you.
Any clearing is amazing, because we all go through things. Like I said, we've all got past life stuff, all sorts of stuff that we're trying to deal with. So it's great that we do have the opportunity to speak to light workers like yourself that can do this. So the angels, I just wanted to come back to that. The archangels, you know, I communicate with them regularly as well, and I totally agree with you, is that people are too afraid to ask them for help because they feel like whatever they want to ask them is too small, or it's going to take it away from somebody else, or they're too embarrassed to ask. And it's important that we realize that they are multidimensional and they are able to help multiple people at any one time. So it's important that you ask, because we do have free will, and they will not intervene for us unless we do ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I ask for help every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. even to lift something that's heavy, I'll call in Yeshua. I'll be like, can you help me with this? And all of a sudden be like, you know?
Yeah.
And absolutely, nothing is too small or too big for them to help. The only time that they may not, I want to say interfere, is sometimes there's things that part of your journey that you need to walk through. And sometimes people, when they do come to spiritual healers or looking for advice and stuff, they are still some of them are still kind of looking for the quick fix. Just take it all from me. And we can't.
Because we have to go through that.
You have to go through it. Absolutely. And I'll tell my clients when I'm in a session, I'll be like, okay, I'll remove programming, or I'll move this and that. And I'll be like, okay, I took as much as I could that your higher self allowed me.
Yeah.
The rest is for you to walk through. And,
and that's hard for people to comprehend sometimes, because it can be painful, and there's a lot that you're having to actually go through, experiences that you have to go through that may just be, it's hard. I mean, that's part of your ascension. That's part of your growth.
Absolutely.
And, no matter how hard it is, as long as you recognize that source is on your side and that you have all of these amazing, your higher self. I mean, Superconscious Success, which is my platform, is all about connection with your higher self. And if you stay connected with that higher part of you, then you're always guided on the right path.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and beautiful surprises come along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently at my mother's place, which is a tiny little 1-bedroom apartment, you know. And I came here off of once winter was over. I said I'm not coming back till winter. And I knew I was coming back. It was we have a lot to move through and heal. At least for me, I do. And I'm still here. I've moved through some big mountains, and then I go into a rest period. And I'm also here to help her through a transition, you know, into assisted living and stuff. But I was asking why am I still here? You know, why, you know, and it's because I'm not done. And but the beautiful blessing out of it is what I did get is I've gotten an assignment for Lionsgate, and that's to go to Santorini, Greece for 2 weeks.
Nice. Wow.
To do some energy work, to do a pilgrimage. I'm going to be a facilitator. Somebody else is putting it together, but you know, and I've always wanted to go there, and bang, there it is. It was a desire I put out there just a couple months ago, and here it is. It showed up, and they're like, "Yep, we want you in Santorini."
It's amazing what manifests for you if you put it out there, isn't it? And you know, people go, "Oh, that was a coincidence," and it's like, no, you put it out there and you stay in that vibration, and it's going to come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have a dear friend who gets frustrated with me because she's just like, "You always get everything you want." And I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't." But you're just seeing us, you know, certain things happening as we're together. But
but we are all capable of that. And I mean, absolutely. You know, it is really about us just, you know, seeing the light and staying in that vibration and realizing that everything is happening for us, not to us. So even the biggest challenges I've gone through in my life have been challenges that have made me grow as a human being, and I would not regret any of them. I've got 2 teenagers. There's always challenges with teenagers. So, you know, I've always said they are my biggest teachers, because, you know, they allow me to see parts of myself that I need to work on as well. And so I think that, you know, if we start to recognize it, no matter what you're going through, it is something we've agreed to, as you said before. It's something that was in our soul contract. And so we need to see the best in it and work our way through it and know that we're going to be okay. You know, it's going to all be okay in the end.
Absolutely. You know, it may seem like we've taken on a lot, and it may seem daunting at times, but you know, sometimes it's just baby steps. You know, there will be days, even, you know, for myself, I will get up and, you know, I'll be like, okay, I always check in every day, you know, intuitively, what am I supposed to be doing today? And there are days where I would be like, well, the first thing we're going to do is get dressed. Okay.
Yep.
The next thing you're going to do, have something to eat, you know, and that's baby steps, you know, because some days just require that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not here to be every day to be going, you know, and have these great activations and awakening. There's always that beautiful downtime of integrating and shifting, which may feel like a contraction, and it's actually not a contraction. That's when you're actually expanding. And that's
and that's like some days, because I speak to, obviously I'm connected with my higher self every day, and I always ask at the start of the day, what's going to be in my highest good today? And some days it'll be like, okay, you're going to work on this project, or you're going to work on this project. And other days it's like, you're just going to meditate for 3 hours, and you're just going to, or you're just going to take some time off, or you're going to declutter the house or whatever. And I think it's important to just go with the flow, because when that happens and when you listen to that, then it's not a struggle. And because what I love about this whole, you know, get up, get dressed, is that you're in the present. And so many of us are so focused on the future, and we're so focused on the past, that we forget the present's all that exists. And so if we can stay in that place of, what am I doing right now? How can I get the most out of what I'm doing right now? And, you know, and get as much benefit from what I'm doing right now, then we can stay in that place of high vibration, because we're not worried. We're not stressed.
Absolutely. And it was actually hard because that was the whole thing about me going on my nomad journey, you know, for being a flight attendant, everything was timed, you know, time. And there was huge programming that takes place in the airline industry. And I was still deconstructing some of that, even though I had stopped flying in 2017. And it just, it was about taking away structure and control. And even for me to now was even to look ahead and book a flight, you know, to Greece, and doing that seemed weird because that was in the future. It was like, well, maybe I should wait a week before. Well, of course, that doesn't make sense. And it, you know, the Galactics are coming. They're wanting to remind us, and this has been said before, that we're to be of the world, not in the world. And stay away from the drama, stay in our own lane. They're always telling me, stay in your own lane, because you will get distracted when people start seeing, when your light starts growing and bigger, they may not know what's going on, but they can see there's a change, and they don't understand, or they just kind of want to hold you back. Distractions will come into your day every day, and I see it happening to me. And then I seem to kind of go into this hyper focus of, no, I know what my purpose is, you know, ultimately, you know, even though we have more than one purpose, that to stay in your own lane and don't let other people distract you. And sometimes it's lovingly telling them, I'm sorry, no, but I'll have to talk to you later.
It's about setting boundaries and recognizing that, you know, you, like you said, we've got a purpose, we've got a reason for being here. And I find that when people see your light, and when your light starts to shine, it triggers people, doesn't it? Especially those that are not on the same vibration as what you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, coming back to a small town in central Minnesota, I go back to I call it my earth name, my birth name, you know, and everybody calls me by that. And I'm just kind of floating through, but I know they see my light. And they're always drawn to me, and they're wanting to talk to me. And it's interesting, you know, it's interesting and beautiful. And of course, I just talk with them and, you know, envelop them in this beautiful light with me, and just kind of let everything happen naturally. And so, it will.
So I have a question for the Pleiadians themselves. So the Pleiades is a star system 444 light years from Earth in the Taurus constellation. Why should they care what's going on with humanity?
That's a big one, because they were definitely involved in a lot of what went down in the beginning. And the bottom line for them, or any other beautiful galactic being or benevolent beings, if our ascension is also their ascension. So when we ascend, they ascend. We're always doing this together because we're all interconnected as one. So so if we do not ascend, and right now currently Earth is not the only planet that is going through this ascension process of if one could say the slave matrix or all of that. We're not the only planet going through that, but we are needing to suspend ascend. They're laughing at me. They have quite the sense of humor, and so do the ascended masters. I'm trying to tell them to be serious here for a moment. They're like, no.
We did say we like to laugh, so
yeah, they did, but they're like, I think they're trying to lighten up the conversation. Ultimately, that's the bottom line. Other civilizations, other dimensions, other galactic beings out there do not ascend unless we all ascend. We all ascend as one. And even though we're going to 4, 5, or even 4 to get into 4, it is also, that's why they are so helpful and supportive for us. They can't intervene. You can ask for help and support in your own right. But as far as anything else, because of our free will that we have here on the planet, they are observers. And of course,
they're waiting.
They're waiting, and they're out there. I see them every day. The cloaked ships. And, I keep telling them I'm waiting for my ride. Of course, I already go up into the ships. I see myself, I go up into the ships, I go into the 10th dimension or higher. And, have a good time. And it's interesting because I've seen them watch me. They have a screen, because when I was on my known measure, I would be driving and I'd see a ship, a Pleiadian ship, because right now there's a lot of Pleiadian and Arcturian ships here, and they're usually very close together. And I'll pop up in the ship, and then I'll see myself on my car on a screen. They're watching me, drive along. There's a lot of my cars on my window, I'll like wave at them and stuff, and they just laugh, and they're very much a part of our world, even though we can't see them. They do walk amongst us. And, I've always said, I would love to have that interaction. And of course, they tell me it's already happened, but I just didn't know it. And so, yeah.
So in order to be able to connect with the Pleiadians, and you've got to be a certain vibration, just like with any of the beings. So is that so if we're, they walk amongst us, if we're out walking and that, if you're not at that particular vibration, you're not going to be able to see them, are you?
Right. To see them, to feel them, to know that they're there. You do have to be at a certain vibration. There's a lot of times when I go walking in the mountains, especially when I was in Mount Shasta and the sister mountains, the 3 sisters in Oregon. Those 3 sister mountains and Mount Shasta are related. There's also, if you want to call it, a sector of Pleiadians that live in 3 sisters.
Okay.
So they are interconnected. You do have to be a certain vibration to feel and know that they're there, and it will happen in time for everyone. So to just in it will happen in your timing. Absolutely. But they are still there. They're still there.
Wow. And so how when was it that you first started to recognize the light language and the connection with the Pleiadians? How long ago was that?
Was that 2 years ago?
Wow.
3 years ago. And it started out as an intention, because a lot of people ask me this question. Or they want me to teach them light language. I'm like, well, you can't teach light language, because it comes from the heart, and and I just said, I set an intention. I sat down and I said, I want to learn or speak light language. And the first time I spoke it, it was 3 syllables. The next time I went in meditation, it was 5.
Okay.
And then I just kept working on it. And then I came across a beautiful being called the Galactic Human. She's on YouTube. And we definitely connected, and listening to other people speak light language. And you may not resonate with everyone. And it's interesting. There's almost like their own dialect. Some people have their own dialect and frequency. And there's like a main universal language that we all speak and understand, which is, I like to think that I feel like it's Pleiadian, but there's a universal light language that we can all speak and understand. And then from then you grow and expand. And then you also start connecting into consciousness, like say the elephant consciousness, which is extremely high, or the consciousness of dirt, or the consciousness, and you can channel and bring through that information. And since this is part of my soul mission, I don't even know how many languages I speak anymore, and new ones are showing up weekly. I'll just start talking and it's a new language, and it's just there.
Wow.
But that's part of my, I think like 2 years ago, I think I was up to 72 languages, and I stopped counting because it's grown since then.
Wow.
So it's unlimited. And then I'm also what they call I coined the word multi-channel, because I can be channeling one being, but I also bringing in the energy of another being. And then I transition through from one language into another language. So sometimes I'm actually channeling 3 or bringing in 3, maybe even 3 energies at one time. So that is just a beautiful gift of mine that has really come to the forefront. But I have to say, I've also worked on it. But at the same time, I also believe it's happening in my timing, and when it's needed.
Yeah. And I think it's needed more and more in today's day for the light workers to really start to help people with the ascension process, and also work on ourselves through the healing process.
Absolutely.
Now, with so when you were young, did you notice any kind of any kind of sign that you're going to be doing this when you were younger? No, nothing.
Oh,
Awesome.
no. I mean, I would see angels or these like little sparkles. I would call them. I knew they were angels. And then I would see ghosts, because in our house we had this ghost, and ghosts are earthbound spirits who haven't transitioned over. And I did learn to transition them over.
Okay.
And a few years ago, and I was close, and I think I got to a point where I actually just shut it down. Because I actually thought I was going crazy, because I didn't have anybody to talk to.
And I have heard a number of people that have said that have, as a child, they've seen the angels or they've seen other spirited beings, and then they thought that they were actually going crazy, so they didn't speak to anybody about it, and then they blocked it off, which sounds like what you kind of did when you were younger.
I was going to ask what your family thought when they found out you're hanging out with the Pleiadians these days.
We don't really talk about it because my father is now passed, although he supports me very much from the other side. But I have two sisters. I'm in the middle, and my mother. All I know is when I first went into meditation class, what was that, 6 years ago, an advanced meditation class, my one sister was very concerned that I was in a cult. So they will.
Oh no.
They're very, because I removed myself from organized religion a long time ago, and I was just seeking the truth for myself. And that's just what I did naturally, because I was always kind of fighting the system, so to speak, when I was there. And they still are concerned. They don't exactly understand or know what I do. I mean, pretty much they have no idea what I can do. And so I don't talk about it much with them. My older sister, who I will call more religious based, and both my sisters are gifted, which is very interesting. But they see, they see it from God's giving them this information. My sister will get messages and very intuitive, but sometimes she'll get to go to the Bible and get her message, and for me it's just very fluid. And they used to question about, well, how do you know where it's coming from, or how do you know it's of the highest good? And I'm just like, because I can feel the energy. There's a difference. I just know. So I just come to a point where I don't talk about it with them. And I think there's a lot of people like me. They're in families that don't understand.
Just to shift gears a little bit, I told you before we started on the show that I had chatted a couple times with Athela from the Sirius galaxy, and Athela talked about their Blu-ray light in plasma. And I understand that's something that you deal with the crystalline codes in plasma. What role does that have, and how do they work?
To me, it was interesting when I first was moving into plasma crystalline energy, because I can see it. It has its own structure to it, so to speak. It is very fluid, but as you raise your vibration, it's like I've moved beyond the plasma energy, and I work with the crystalline energy. And it's interesting, you hear a lot of people talk about 0 point, because you'll go in up to 0 point, which is dark, which is darkness. And then there's this beautiful, the crystalline energy, this beautiful light, beautiful colors. And then you can actually keep going. And then there's another layer of darkness. And then you go beyond that. And then there's another layer of colors in different spectrums. And it just keeps going like that. So there is more than just one, if you want to call it 0 point. And working with the crystalline energy is just beautiful. It has I don't know if I call it a mind of its own. You learn to just step out of the way and be the channel, the conduit for, and just let it come through. And at the same time, communicating, like say in a healing session, or, you're also communicating with their higher self, whatever dimension that you're holding them in, because if that's what they can hold in their frequency. Like I'll have clients, I can only take them to 12. Some clients I can take to 15. There's some clients I can take to the 21st dimension. So it depends on where they're at in their frequency. And then the colors just come in and move through the body. And it's actually about moving yourself out of the way and letting the crystalline energy do the work. And then you can see where it's highlighting certain things, and then you can go in and address it closer. And
so I think one of the things that obviously stops us from that connection is our ego. Our ego can get in the way, and as you just said, to move ourselves out of the way to be able to allow this to flow through us. How does somebody go about doing that? Because we're so programmed with our ego that we don't know how to move ourselves out of the way to be able to hear those messages or have it come through us.
The ego is very strong. The ego doesn't like to do anything new or out of the norm, even when it comes to the healing, because it will distract you. And all of a sudden, you want to think or talk about something else, because it's not like in control. I started doing this about a year ago, instead of, like, I want to say, fighting with my own ego, like I would, I'd get upset with it, and I would like yell at, like, stop, please stop.
I think we've all done that.
We
please
all do
just, then I would move into no, then I would just surround it in the flame. I have learned that, my own ego has a consciousness of its own. So I do go in and clear out the consciousness of my own ego. And a lot of times that's just using the pink flame. I have gone in and spoken with my own ego consciousness and say, let's create a partnership. I still need you. You are still of value. It's part of the human race. But right now, today, or whatever I'm working at, I need to have you take a step back. And try to have that partnership. Does it always work? No, but it helps. It does help. It does help. And,
because it's not. Go on.
I was going to say, behind that too, if it's not the ego, it's your inner child that controls quite a bit. And many of us have alter egos created by our inner childs from such trauma that we've had in this lifetime and other lifetimes.
And this is why inner child healing is so important.
Yeah. And there is also a cord that from the navel chakra, there is a beautiful silver cord that is connected with divine. And for many of us, that was severed. And that is, if you want to call, symbolic in the tying and the cutting of the umbilical cord when we're born. That took place. And so I've done some healing around, if you want to call, reattaching energetically that beautiful divine cord back to source. In that respect. So we have more than one connection to source, more, so that is also another issue. But there's so many layers and so many things to go through. It is. And if you are really serious and wanting to do this path, and that is to seek out some beautiful healers who are really, really have a touch on what's going on. And there are many beautiful healers, and many on their way coming into the field to do the work.
And I've always said, because people will say, oh, how do I get rid of the ego? And I'm like, you can't get rid of the ego, because the ego is important. The ego allows us to learn and allows us to experience a 3D reality. But there are times when we've got to let our higher self say, I'm taking the reins right now. Okay, absolutely. I love you and I appreciate you, but I'm taking the reins right now, and I need you to take that step back, as you just said. So it's not about getting rid of it, but I think it's about maybe allowing it to just, take a step back and let your higher self take the reins. So
well, it's like, I have had friends and people say, well, they're doing courses on to do death of the ego, and I'm thinking, well, how's that working for you?
How's that gonna work?
And because it's part of the human race. I mean, I channeled the ego consciousness, the collective ego consciousness, and it actually came, a part of it once before the human race. So it's been there much longer than we realize. But the death of, to me, and this is just my perspective, when you talk about trying to have death of the ego, to me, that's just another form of separation within yourself, and that separation and duality. And it's not about that anymore.
But isn't the ultimate goal of enlightenment to get to a place where there is no longer an ego and we are all in unity, and there is no separation at that point? If there's no ego and we're all this holographic connected unity, the ego can exist.
To me, the ego, I'm being shown the ego, that this unity comes all together as one.
Yeah.
It becomes all together as one. Yeah, absolutely. But we are still in such a lower dimension that is not possible.
And that would work if we were maybe on fourth or fifth dimension, where we're actually...
Yeah, and actually in the fourth dimension, there's still duality and separation. There is, and even some in the fifth dimension. You don't clear that out until you're actually more into the seventh, the sixth, seventh. Yeah, eighth for sure. The Arcturians are eighth dimensional beings. There's nothing there. And so there's some misnomer about the fifth dimension being all rainbows, and it is. We will, because we'll have moved and healed so much that we are actually have that kindness and the love and the understanding. But it's not, it's utopia compared to what we have now. Yeah. But it's not yet the big piece of pie that is coming, but from where we are at now, that is heaven on earth. And that's how I still continue to look at it.
Jen, you and I are going to the seventh dimension right after this.
We're upgrading.
We're upgrading. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think you can, go on.
I was gonna say, you can visit there. I mean, once, you can ask to be taken there. You know, absolutely. Even if it's in a dream state. So.
Well, just to let people know, we've been talking to Sananda Kryst. She is a voice and a connection to the Pleiadian teachers and ascended masters. And wow, this has been amazing.
This has been so much fun.
Your spiritual shift. Wow. I have like 9 million more questions, but I don't think we're
I think it's just it's just been so much fun, and I've loved the light language coming through.
Oh, thank you. They're saying they want me to touch base on something quickly, and I'll do this quickly. They're wanting me to just tell a story, because obviously this is for somebody or more than one person listening. When I got hurt as a flight attendant, of course at the time I didn't understand why, and actually all the work I was doing while I was a flight attendant. I was there, even in physical therapy, trying to get back to my job, because in that time frame, I was still had the perspective of, oh, well, I only have 12 or 15 more years to go before I retire.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's a horrible place to be.
Yeah, and I had already had over 20 years in, and I'm like, okay, well, I've already got 20, and I can suck it up for 12 to 15 more, because it was destroying my soul. Yeah. And but that's all I knew. I was making good money. I got hurt, which is, I know, beautifully orchestrated by my higher self. Yeah. and once I got out there, and everything just played out. And when I was even in physical therapy trying to get back to my job, and I couldn't make the minimum to do the job, to get back to do the job, the weight limit of lifting and pushing and pulling, I was already working then on my plan B, because all this other stuff started coming in. I had gone to Egypt twice. I didn't have a clue to what I was doing, but it will all show up in your path. Yeah. But to just let it come. And you know what? It's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, your story just shows that, our higher self and source and all of our spiritual beings, they're all there to help us on our path. And by you not reaching that minimum limit, that allowed you to redirect your path, because I've taken a number of redirections in my whole journey, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come. But if you realize that what's happening in our life is happening to get us to on the least resistance, the path of least resistance. And if you fight against it, as you're saying, I've only got 12 or 15 years left. And that's a hard place to be in, because it's like every morning you get up going, oh, here we go again. Okay, let's do it again. But like you said, it was sucking the soul out of you. It is important that we as humans, that we figure out our purpose and remember that, you know, we stress so much about money. We stress so much about how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Remember, Source has got your back. Okay, you're okay. You're going to be fine, but you've got to trust in that. And don't, you know, really figure out what your purpose is. Figure out what you love to do, because this is where we're going to be able to follow our purposes, when we're doing what we love. And don't be in a job that sucks your soul out of you.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about our soul's purpose, because a lot of people ask me that too, it's usually what brings you the greatest joy. And I want to tell people, not everybody has a purpose of where you need to be out making videos, you need to be doing this, you need to be a healer. You know, maybe your soul purpose is to be that high vibrational barista in a coffee shop, or the high vibrational cashier person at the grocery store. Because trust me, when I go into these places, I'm looking for the star seed, which line do I want to check out in, because we are all needed everywhere. So not to get that, feeling that we all, it's grandiose to you, because that's exactly where you need to be.
Yeah. And I notice it, like, even when I go into like petrol stations or supermarkets, or you always know which people to resonate towards. But I always make sure when I go in that I'm always bubbly and I'm always happy and I'm always shining my light, because it just brings somebody so much joy. Just a single smile, or just a single ask them how they're going or whatever. And they say, you have just made my day. Because there are so many grumpy people that go in every single day. So shine your light. We've all got a light to shine it, and don't worry about what other people say or think or that, because we're here to fulfill our purpose. So thank you so much, Sananda. We could talk for absolute hours, but I've just realized we've gone for over an hour.
What's your website, and how can people connect to you?
It is Pleiadianportal.com, and I am on Instagram and YouTube, all under Pleiadianportal.com, and absolutely, and LinkedIn too, Pleiadianportal.com. I try to keep it simple.
Pretty simple to remember. It will all be in the show notes. It will all be in the show notes. So, so definitely go and check out. She's got the most beautiful website. It is a gorgeous website, and we have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed having you on the show today, Sananda.
I do want to thank the Pleiadians for taking a rod out of me.
Absolutely.
We'll only have to put an analgesic on tomorrow before I go for a run. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And
you look after yourself. And thank you to the light beings that came in to speak to us today.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Sananda.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yay.
Yay.